Hello! Welcome back to the Tech Theater Skills Series. My name is Chris Schlemp, and I have been an actor, director, projections designer, and teacher for over 20 years. I'm glad to be sharing some of my knowledge with you. This series is all about sound design, and is intended for someone who is just beginning their voyage of discovery into the world of sound in the theater. The sound design series will be broken up into 7 parts, and this is episode 2, Diegetic Sound, where we will be discussing sounds that actually exist for the characters in the world of the play. Time to get out a pen and notebook. Watching and listening are great ways to encounter a new topic, but you really make it your own by engaging with the material, writing down what you hear, and trying things out for yourself. The more you can connect your eyes, ears, hand, and brain, the more likely you are to learn. Imagine seeing this scene on stage without any sound at all. I know that's impossible to achieve because actors moving around with swords and armor will always be making some sort of sound, so imagine a scene with nothing else besides those sounds. Now, imagine this same scene on a darkened stage, but with all the sounds that would realistically go along with it. In addition to the sounds that the actors make naturally, you hear horses fighting in the distance, maybe some fires burning, and wagons being maneuvered into place. Which one is easier to believe? Which one is more plausible? You don't always see what you hear, but you do always need to hear what you see. Characters inhabit a world within the play, with a set of circumstances that exist for those characters. Those circumstances of the play are the play's diegesis. When we talk about a play's diegesis, we don't care whether or not those circumstances could exist in the real world. We only care about what actually exists in the world of the play. For example, if a play features a fight with an actual dragon, then the sounds that the dragon makes are part of the play's diegesis, even though dragons do not actually exist. As long as that dragon is real for the characters, then it fits the definition of a diegetic sound. The object that is making the sound is something the characters are aware of, and that they could interact with if they could get close enough to it. Consider these 3 examples of diegetic sounds. Imagine a small artist's studio in a busy downtown area of a large city. On a table there is a radio playing music softly in the background. Outside we can hear the noise of traffic, with cars honking and engines idling, the general bustle of a busy downtown. Occasionally, over the traffic noise, we can hear the chirping of birds who have gathered on clotheslines or telephone wires just outside the window. The radio will probably actually be there on stage, so it is obviously diegetic. No production of a play, however, will bring in actual cars and birds, especially when they are offstage and never seen by the audience. Nevertheless, the cars and birds are still diegetic, because they exist for the characters in the play. If an actor were to stick their head out the window on stage, they would need to imagine that they see cars and birds. The additional diegetic sounds help them, and the audience, imagine the scene more plausibly. Let's imagine a scene from a hypothetical play about zombies. As I describe each sound, see if you can determine whether or not it would be diegetic. The character slowly approaches a closed door. As they get closer, we hear a single low note played on a piano, and it sustains for a very, very long time. Zombies smash through the door, and we hear the horrifying sounds they make as ooze drips from their disfigured mouths. The character fights off the zombies, and we hear epic battle music to accompany this heroic struggle. After the battle, as the character recovers, we hear a heartbeat that gets gradually softer. Okay, let's see how you did. That low suspenseful note is non-diegetic. There is no piano in the world of our zombie fighter. The piano only exists for us, to help us understand the character's emotion. The smashing door and zombie mouth sounds are diegetic. Those actually exist for the character, who hears them too. The epic battle music is non-diegetic. There's no band in the corner playing music while they watch the fight. The character does not hear the music. Only we do. The heartbeat could go either way. Have you ever worked out so hard where it seems like you can hear the blood pumping in your ears? It's possible, I suppose, for a character to hear their own heartbeat, but in general, this one would be non-diegetic as well. At this point, you might be wondering, does this label even matter? Don't we need both kinds of sound? Yes, we do. This is not an either-or situation. Sound designers need to design both diegetic and non-diegetic sounds, so the label to some extent is irrelevant. However, it is critical for a sound designer to fully consider a play's diegesis, because the reality that can be built on stage in terms of set, lights, and props can only go so far. There will always be far more sounds that exist in every scene than could possibly be manufactured by the other designers. The more a sound designer can fill in the details of a play's diegesis, the more plausible and immersive the scene becomes. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments section below, or if you happen to be in my class, type them in the chat. Let's see if we can find the answers together. Sometimes crew members or actors will produce diegetic sounds live. Sometimes those sounds are pre-recorded and played back on speakers. Sometimes the actors or crew make the sounds in front of the audience. Sometimes they are in the wings or even backstage. Sounds produced live by actors or crew are called practical sounds or practicals. And in case you are wondering, we use the same terminology for lights. If an actor turns on a table lamp as part of their business on stage, then that table lamp is a practical light, or practical for short. Take a look at these examples. Which of these would be best done live as a practical, and which would be best done as a recording and played at a certain moment over the speakers? A car crash is a pretty hefty sound and would be next to impossible to recreate live on stage. That one is a clear recording. The bell to ring for the butler would probably be best done as a practical, with the actor actually ringing an actual bell. It would be very challenging for a soundboard operator to time the playing of a cue to the actor hitting the little button on the bell. It's not impossible, but an extra headache that we don't really want. That one is a clear practical. The middle one goes either way, depending on the play and the set. If the audience sees the door, then it should be a practical, with the door built sturdily enough that it can be slammed hard to make a practical sound. If we never see the door, then it could be recorded, or it could be a stagehand with a door flat in the wings slamming a door that the audience never sees. Either way. Where does a designer find which diegetic sounds to add into the design? As we saw in the previous lesson on mining the script, the playwright provides many of them by writing them into the stage directions. Sound designers are obligated to include those in the same way that an actor is obligated to say the lines as written. Sometimes, the playwright merely suggests a certain sound by including an overall description of the action or the setting. A sound designer has to use their imagination to infer what sounds would best achieve that description. A sound designer should always mark up their copy of the script with all the planned sound cues highlighted. This marking up process is sometimes called scoring. Beyond the stage directions, the sound designer will also need to interface with the director and the rest of the design team, all of whom will contribute ideas for the sound design and may even express specific requests. In the previous lesson, for example, we learned about the heavy chains that Marley's ghost would need to wear that would be too expensive to make out of actual chains and too heavy for the actor to wear. The props designer might, in that case, request that the sound designer add in the sound of heavy chains to reinforce the visual. The whole design team, under the umbrella of the director, needs to work together to achieve a coherent vision, so effective communication across all those departments is essential from the start. Okay, time for you to try it out. Imagine this rustic scene in a cabin out in the woods. Look at all the details you see. Now, imagine the reality that exists in the world of the play outside that window. What are all the diegetic sounds you would need to add if you wanted to make this scene seem plausible on stage? See how many you can come up with on your own. You learned a lot today. You learned about what diegetic sound is. You learned about the difference between recorded sound and practical sound. And you learned how a designer discovers what sounds are needed for each scene through a combination of imagination and working together with the Playwright script and the other members of the design team. I want to thank you for stopping by today to learn a little bit about sound design. If you enjoyed learning, please feel free to like and subscribe. In the next episode, we will examine other types of sound that don't exist in a play's diegesis, so be sure to come back real soon and check that one out. I look forward to continuing this journey with you real soon.